What's going on, everyone? This is Adam Swartz, and this is What's Good in Riverside. I have a massive, major, epic guest today. We and Donnie have known each other since I was 18 years old. Can you believe it's been that long, man?
Whoa, and now you're 55. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Donnie is probably, there's two major people in my life were the reasons why I went down to umpire school and went to the minor leagues. Donnie was the one that convinced me to go, because Donnie went to umpire school before me, and then my grandfather was the one that paid for it. So if it wasn't for Donnie Edison, I don't know if I would have ever been a minor league umpire. So thank you, Donnie. And that's why I'm here to give back to you now.
Now I just have one question.
Yeah.
I see a picture of your grandpa on the wall.
Yeah.
I don't see a picture of me.
Oh, see, that's true.
Just
true.
kidding.
So Donnie, me and him have known each other for a long time, and Donnie has had an epic story. He just came out with this book, which I'm super proud of him. I just got done reading it. It's a quick read. It is an epic story that I think that a lot of people need to hear. And Donnie, thank you for coming on the show.
Cool. I'm excited. I'm so glad I got this book out. It was a lot of work. It wasn't that difficult writing it, and that's because it's my story. But the issues I was having was with editing. It's like they want to take out so much, and it's like, what do I keep? You know, now the book's only 138 pages, and like Adam said, typically for someone it's a one sit down and read it.
Yeah.
So it's not a Stephen King novel, but it's informative. And the reason that I wrote it is because when I was told 3 weeks after me and my wife bought our home that I'd probably never walk again, that's a little hard to deal with. So I had to make a decision if I was going to just fold or if I was going to stick it out and get through this and try to live a happy life. And in the first chapter of the book, I talk about a conversation that I had with myself, because that first day in the hospital, in the rehabilitation hospital, after I woke up out of ICU, they sent me to Ballard Rehabilitation Hospital in San Bernardino. And that day must have been 20, 30 people that I would look at. If they made eye contact with me, I complained and said, I'm only 36. This isn't fair. I just bought a home and just got married. This isn't supposed to happen to me. And I said that to about 20 people that first day. And then in my wheelchair, as I was pushed into my room, I said to myself, Donnie, do you feel any better about your situation tonight than you did earlier today? And I answered myself, no. So then I decided, okay, well, if you're going to get through this, you're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to be positive, and you're going to have to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. And that was it. That conversation cleared everything up for me, because I knew in that moment that wasn't going to change anything by just complaining. Yeah, it was difficult. I couldn't see out of my left side. I couldn't use my left hand. Couldn't walk. I couldn't even stand up by myself. So how do we get through those things? We have to do those things for ourselves. And so I did. And that enabled me to go back to school. Well, first of all, this is the logo for Arlington High School baseball. So in the first 6 months after the stroke, I was still in a wheelchair until that day that I heard the sound of a baseball hitting an aluminum bat from across the street at a high school baseball batting practice. And then I just had to figure out how to get over there. So I went over there and sat in a wheelchair in the stands and just watched batting practice for 3 weeks straight until the coach eventually invited me in the dugout to sit in there for a scrimmage game. That was it. Now I decided, okay, I want to be a coach. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go to school, get my degree. So I did that. And I just felt like I had to find my happiness. My happiness wasn't going to be sitting in my house in a wheelchair. And so that was a lot I just gave you. So sorry about all that.
He's been waiting a few weeks to drop this on the mic. So, Donnie, obviously you had a scenario that most people don't even think of, right? Even when in the book, it talks about even you going to the hospital, the doctor, you even asked if I'm having a stroke, and they said, no, you're too young, right? And so obviously it's something that no one's expecting. But a lot of the book you talked about was, you know, the hard life you were living before this, your health and these kind of things, you know. Like in the title it says, stroke that saved my life. Do you feel like was the reason you had a stroke was because of all the years of not treating your body well because of your diabetes? Because there's a lot of people that are unhealthy and they don't think it's ever going to catch up to them. Is that ever was the reason?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another group of people I want to understand is I've been type 1 diabetic since I was 7 years old, and I can't remember ever taking care of myself. And as I got older, it just got worse. It got into not just eating donuts, but drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. And then I would just rationalize it with myself. Okay, well, I still have my feet, so I must be okay. I was wrong. And type 1 diabetics are not immune to thinking that they're immune. You know, we think, oh, well, we can be okay. How is this going to hurt me? And it catches up to us.
And that's why it's so crazy. I think that I think it goes both ways, right? Is that the scenario you were put in was years and years and years of doing something wrong. And now we're at, what, 10 years now? What year was it? 2009 when you had your stroke. So we're probably 11 years after, and now we're writing a book. And so do you think a lot of people just don't process, like, when things are happening bad for you and when things turn around for you, how long it actually takes?
Yeah, well, it's all perspective. I mean, once I was able to walk again and move and maneuver and be a little more self-sufficient, then things started. I can sit and see things becoming better. So, but that all came because of my response. You know, real quick, I want to tell you I think this is interesting because I had 3 different titles for the book, and they all make sense. If I would have given the title, any of these titles, it would have made sense. The first one was titled To Be Determined, and I decided on that because the doctors told me in the hospital that I'd probably never walk again. And my idea was, you can't say that. I mean, I can't, if I take that and live by that, then I may never. But I decided it doesn't matter what you say. I have to put in the work if I want it. So it's the response to it. It's not what I'm being told is possible. And then it was, excuse me, the response is everything, which is things happen to us. I didn't choose this to happen.
Well, you didn't choose to be diabetic either.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I responded poorly. And when I say the response is everything, yeah, the response is everything, because when I responded poorly to the diabetes, it got me into the stroke situation. So then my response to the stroke had to be positive if I'm going to get through it. So it's all about the response. What's funny is probably less than 2 years after the stroke, Adam was in Arizona, I think, small A maybe.
Yeah.
And I was using a quad cane, and I could see in his body language, like, he felt sorry for me. And I understand that because, you know, a year before, we would umpire a college game together, and I would run from home plate down to first base faster than the players. I was fast, and to see me the way I was must have been very difficult.
So you wrote a book, and obviously you went to college, you wrote a book, you've done some speaking engagements, you know, since everything that has happened, you know, was it a daily reminder for you? Or after you had that conversation with yourself, was it like, okay, I've made that click in my mind? Because, you know, obviously, like, it's easy to complain. You know, even like my goal for 2021 is stop complaining so much, because I complain. You know what I mean? And then you start thinking, like, what am I complaining about? But it's so easy to complain, and it's very hard to be positive that, you know, a lot of people aren't. So was it like a daily reminder you had to do for yourself, or was it like, okay, I had this conversation, I've checked it in, let's go?
Well, no, it's something I deal with daily still. I mean, like, for example, today, as I'm walking to the bus stop, I see this woman sitting there, like, on a curb, like, shoveling food in her mouth that she got from somewhere. Somebody gave it to her. She appeared to be homeless. And so in those moments, I remind myself how grateful I am, that I have a roof over my head, I have a bed to sleep in, I have food, I can eat whenever I want to eat. I eat 3 meals a day, and I'm grateful for that. And that keeps my mindset proper.
It's crazy to think that how quickly it's easy to like lose traction of like how good you have it. You know what I mean? Because, and I think, I mean, one of the best things that I ever went through was when I went to the Dominican, and I was there for 4 months for baseball. And it's like you go to, you know, the guys that you're working with, and, you know, we weren't making a lot of money. We were making like $165 a day, but these guys are making $20 a day. And they would only get paid if they worked. Like if we drove all the way to the ballpark and it rained and the game got banged, they didn't get paid. They wasted a whole day. And then, you know, on days off where they'd have us out of the house, it's, you know, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, cement walls, cement floor, no TV, barely any electrician, barely having water. And they were, you know, content. And so it kind of brings you back to like humbling for a minute. And you're like, what am I complaining about right now, you know?
Yeah. And one of the things that I tried to represent in the book, and what I want your viewers to understand real quick, is take one moment and imagine you just wake up tomorrow morning and everything has changed. You can't walk, you can't use one of your hands. Your life has completely changed to where you don't know what to do. I mean, that is a tough thing to imagine, but I didn't get to think about it. I just woke up and that's how it was. So I can't do anything but just let's go forward. Let's get somewhere. I want to be happy. This is my only life. Mm-hmm. So how can I be happy?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that we get stuck in my world of, you know, a lot of goals and numbers and transactions and stuff. And I remember last 2019, we were at a Christmas party. Obviously, we didn't have anything at 2020, but a guy came up to me, a newer agent, you know, and he came up and said, "Hey, what's your goals for?" And I was like, "Man, I just want to be happy." And to tell him that, he just was like so taken off guard, because everyone is like, "I want to do 40 deals a year, and I want to do this, and I want to buy a car, and I want to buy a house, and I want to buy a vacation home, and whatever." And it's like, "Dude, I just want to be happy. I don't want to do more. I don't want to do a lot. I don't want to do 50, 60 deals a year, because I would be miserable." I try to find that happy place of like what makes me happy, and the way I can live a life that gets me around. There was a story the other day with Kobe passing away a few days ago. I was listening to, God, I can't remember his name. He's he has a podcast, big damn guy, big emotional, wrote books and stuff. But he said a story that he saw Kobe, him and his daughters played volleyball together, and he saw Kobe 7 days before Kobe passed away. And he thought, what if Kobe walked out that door and someone told you have 6 days to live? You have 5 days to live. You have 4 days to live. You have 3 days to live. What different would you have done? And I think that's something that people need to realize. It's like sooner things are gonna happen in life. So, you know, like you said, you woke up one day and all of a sudden everything changed. So it's like, where do we go from there? You know? And I think too many people like live in that regret mode. You know, they don't do what makes them happy because of whatever reason, the failures or the fear or whatever. I mean, you wrote a book. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting because I would never have imagined me writing a book. Mm-hmm. But saying that, one of my favorite things to do is to imagine. So it's like I spend a lot of time imagining, and those are the goals. Mm-hmm. So I'm imagining it. So now I can see it. So now how do I put things in place so I can achieve it? Yeah. You know?
I need to do a better job of that. I used to do that a lot earlier, like affirmations. You know, I've been reading a lot of like people like, and my coach Kevion was really big into affirmations. He does them every day. I'm just not good at them because I feel weird, like saying out loud, like speaking into truth what you are. And it's something I need to like get over that, like, I don't even say it's a fear, just get over, like, to remind myself to do that every day, because I think sometimes like things are moving so fast, you're running from here and you're running there, you kind of forget to take that moment to just kind of like be grateful, talk about the truth, imagine things, you know, speak in the truth of what you want in life. And our minds are very powerful things. And obviously you're a great example of that.
Well, hearing a couple of the words you said, let me share a secret that I use then. At the end of every night when I was getting ready for bed, I would sit on the edge of my bed and just think, use that time with, I don't have to worry about an email. I don't have to worry about a text message. I can just imagine. And that's how I got myself through school. I want to be a high school baseball coach. Well, I have to go to school. So how was I going to be excited enough to do that when I was a terrible high school student back in 1991? So it's that time that we can just put, and it can be quiet, and we can put everything together. We don't have to be distracted, because what I heard you just say was, because everything is so fast, and that's true. we got so much going on. We got to go here, we got to go there, we got to do this, we got to do that. Well, if we set aside time intentionally, then we allow ourselves to bring that stuff in to imagine.
Do you think that, obviously what happened, you kind of slowed down your life, you know what I mean, to the point where now it's like maybe you are more grateful, maybe you are more appreciated, maybe you don't take things for granted?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, every day when I wake up, I remind myself of my gratitude. Every day when I go to bed, I do the same thing. So I mean, it's instilled in me now, and I'm so grateful to just be sitting here talking about a book that I wrote. How did I write a book? And I hope if anyone is interested, if anyone is watching this and they have somebody in their family or a friend that's had a stroke, this is, from what I've heard from different physical therapists that I've read, it's something that should be in the hands of those people, because in the rehab hospital they didn't discuss the psychological side enough. And if we don't have that in place, then how are we going to be able to get out of here happily and be able to walk?
Well, I think the hard part is, like, I will never get coached by someone who doesn't sell real estate or who has sold real estate in the last 10 years. Or no, not even last 10, last 5. Because if you don't mentally know how to actually do it and you only know the theory of it, you can't talk about the ups and downs that are going to come with that process. Like, that's the one thing I don't think people realize is, like, everything I speak of and everything you speak of, you've actually dealt with it yourself. You have personal experience. You know what got you through this, And in the book, you talk about those things. And so, but if someone is theorizing about having a stroke, they don't know the mental hardship of, like, I can't put, like you said in the start, like, I can't put my own sock on. In theory, you can theorize how that would feel, but you don't know actually what it feels.
Yeah.
Like when coaches try to tell me, oh, you need to walk into a house and say this. You've never sat across from a seller and said that. So how do you know how to actually do it? In theory, you know how to do it. Theory is great, but until you're in the actual moment, it's kind of a little difficult.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what I have said through these years is doctors have a lot of knowledge, therapists, nurses have a lot of book knowledge, but they don't know how it feels. Mm-hmm. And it feels really difficult. And if we can get through that mentally, then we're going to be okay, period.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, like, mentally, in anything in life, it's even the way that now you are so positive and you speak so different about a stroke and the ups and downs that you had and the limitation, where now it's not even a limitation, to the point where when people are around you now, they don't even see it as a limitation. But I think that it's the opposite. When you're around someone and they feel bad for themselves, then you start feeling bad for them, because they're bringing that energy to them. But for you, I mean, we hiked Mount Rubidoux together. You know what I mean? Yeah, we did that. And it's like, I would have never called you up and be like, hey, you want to hike Mount Rubidoux? But you called me, you're like, yo, you hike Mount Rubidoux? I want to hike Mount Rubidoux. Okay, let's do it. And so you're bringing that energy of, like, this is normal life now. And you can do it, So hats off to you for that one. So obviously you wrote a book. You are one of the most positive people I know for everything that's happened to you. So what's the goal from now?
My next big goal?
Yeah. What is something you're sitting at night imagining?
I'm imagining me getting on TED Talk.
TED Talk.
That's where I want to be, because I believe my message needs to be in front of young people as well as stroke survivors, but in front of high school kids, college kids, to understand that life is going to knock them down. And they're just going to have to deal with it. They can't undo it. Mm-hmm. They can just move forward the best as possible. And that's the message I want these young people to hear.
Well, I think that's the thing, that, like, you're not going to be in a bubble. Like, life kicks you in the face. Like, get used to it, And I think that's the one thing that, like, when you start being around people that are taking on more challenges, and I think that the hard part is that we live in this bubble now of, like, social media and on the internet, and you only see the highlight reel of everyone. Mm-hmm. You don't ever see the truth. I saw a girl post the other day. She posted something like, I really wish people would actually talk about how it is, because she started her own company. She's like, I really wish people would post on Instagram what it's really like to run a company, not just all the memes, like, great. Yeah. And I wrote her, I'm like, let me guess, looks like you're dealing with payroll, HR, insurance problems. She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, welcome to owning a business. The thing that no one tells you about, no one ever sees, right? It's like for you, they see you now, but they don't see all the struggles for the last 10 years. And they don't see before it, you know? Mm-hmm. Like you said, you're eating donuts, living that unhealthy life, and it caught up to you, you know?
And the reason, just to put everything in perspective, the reason the subtitle is The Stroke That Saved My Life is because the road I was heading down, according to the Diabetes Association and other health organizations, if I would have kept that lifestyle, there was a high chance of me dying from my diabetes because of my glucose was always so high. So it really did save my life. As much as it hindered me in different ways, I'm here because I had the stroke, I believe. Because sooner or later, it was going to take me down all the way.
Well, and the worst thing is like, you know, like you said, that statement you said earlier, it's like, I still have my legs, so I'm good. And that's the crazy part, you know what I mean? Especially how unhealthy people are now and how much sugars and everything and that kind of thing. And I think diabetes is going to be a massive issue in the next 10 to 20 years because people just, it's so hard to, I mean, it is hard to eat healthy, you know? Everywhere you look is sugar and it's spiking your glucose level. And I think, you know, I don't think even a lot of people understand that, what it even means when you eat that or drink that monster or drink that thing that's full of sugar, what it does to your actual body. Yeah. So you want to get on TED Talk, and then what else do you want to do?
I want to eventually earn enough money from whatever I'm doing to hire a speech coach and to get promoted to different high schools eventually across the United States.
Yeah, to do speaking engagements. Yeah. Nice.
Because I feel that's my happy place where I can help people, get the message out. And so that's what I see my future as.
Okay.
But as much as I love to speak, I don't think I'm very good at it. I need to work on my voice. I'm a little too monotone, so I need some training.
Yeah. No, I know that feeling. Like when I hop on camera, it's like, okay, like I can tell when I shoot a video and I'm just like maybe a little bit more amped. And I'm like, I need to be that amped all the time because it just perceives better. Yeah. When you're all monotoned and you have that same level, it doesn't hit as hard. Yeah. You know? So what was the biggest challenge to writing your own book? So if there's someone out there that has a story that wants to write a book, what are some of the things that you did not expect when writing this book?
Like I said, the editing process was tough for me. And that's because my vision, I'm blind in the left side of both eyes, so it was difficult. No, I have to go back and read the manuscript. I probably read it 10 times during the process. So I'm marking all the things that I see. And then they are marking the things they see. And then they're taking out the things they don't think is relevant. And then I have to agree to that or not agree to that. And so that process was much more stressful than just writing the book.
How long did the process take?
About a year. Last summer is when I sat down and wrote it.
And then the process of like going back and forth.
Yeah. So, and it was pretty expensive, but that's because the company who edited also published. So it's not cheap, but it's done. And I'm happy I did it because I wanted to do it. And I didn't let things get in the way because I had one editor. And after a month or so and them just working on the introduction, it took 20 times of them coming back with all these mistakes. So I said, this is not going to work. So I let them go and found somebody else. But I didn't allow that to just say, okay, well, this is going to be just too difficult, so I'm just not going to do it. I just kept looking and found the right fit. So it's not necessarily going to be smooth, but it can be done. Just got to hang in there.
Well, I think that's the thing too. It's like not too many. You and my boy Roy are the only two people I've ever known to write a book. And I was actually thinking about the other day after I read your book. I'm like, maybe I'll write a book one day. I don't know what about, but maybe one day I'll write a book. But it's the same thing. It's like I know how difficult it's going to be to actually write it. And like Where do you even start? What is relevant? What is not relevant?
Yeah.
Is what's running on? What's actually important? So, is there anything in the book that got taken out that you wish would have stayed in?
Oh my gosh. I think so. There were a couple little things that involved my former wife, Natalia.
Which I will say this, Donnie. I will say this about the book, that the way you spoke about her in the book was very inspiring. It really was, just so you know.
Cool. That was the goal. I said former wife because we're no longer married, but she's my best friend. And I'm so thankful to her for not leaving the day this happened to me. She hung in there with me and got me to a place where I could take care of myself again. So how could I not be grateful for that? Not all women would have done that. Mm-hmm. So, but the way I asked her to be my girlfriend's in there, but the way I asked her to marry me is not in there. And so the way I asked her to marry me, I thought was really cool. I thought about it for a long time. We used to always go into photo booths when we would go out for dinner or whatever to the movies. And so we went to the movies, and after the movie, I went into the bathroom, put the ring on my finger, got in the photo booth. First picture was me with my left arm around her shoulder, showing the ring to the camera. She doesn't realize it. The next one is me proposing and her reaction. Then the last one is us kissing. But I just thought it was a fun way to do it. Yeah, that didn't make the book.
Oh, well, that's a great story right there. So how's it been? You know, obviously, the one big thing that you did talk about in the book is the huge support system you have around you with your family and everything like that. How major was that to you?
Oh, my goodness. Because both of my biological parents have passed. My dad passed 2 weeks before my wedding. And then my mom, a few years later. But Natalia's parents, unbelievable people. Unbelievable people. I mean, they refer to me as son. Me and their daughter are no longer married, but they treat me like they raised me. And it's just this feeling. And the whole family is like that. And I've just been blessed beyond belief.
Well, I think that's a good way to end this off, knowing that it matters. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It's the aspect of how we react to the situation, because bad things are going to happen to all of us. And I read a book one time that said that the elites have 1 or 2 bumps in the road per year that last 1 or 2 days, some major things that bump them off track. And somewhat successful people have about 5 to 6 or maybe, and it bumps them a little bit longer. And non-successful people, they have 20 of those things that bump them off track all the time. So the difference is that when you want to actually go after something, we all have the same amount of bumps in the road. It's how we react to them and how long it takes us to bounce back. So, Donnie, why don't you leave one more thing last for the viewers and to reach off and the advice you want to give someone. When
life knocks you on your back, are you going to decide to stay there and be miserable, or get up and have a happy life? To me, it's that simple. It's that decision. Mm-hmm. It's your choice. The response is everything.
That's awesome. Well, below will be a link to Donnie's book. If for some reason, obviously we know times are tough right now with coronavirus and people, I have ordered 10 books. So if you're unable to buy a book, send me a message. I'll send you a book. And I'm excited to see Donnie on TED Talk one of these days.
And on that note, it's not the price of Barack Obama's new book, which is $45. It's only $15. I tried to price it so that in these times it wasn't going to hurt somebody.
Yeah, and we're working on getting him an audio book too, right? So that's our next goal for Donnie, is to get someone in here to read the book, put it on audio, and then one more way to help, like he was saying before the podcast, is that when he's in the hospital, it was hard for him to read. So we need to help as many people as possible, even the ones that can't see right now or can't read or those kind of items. So Donnie, I really appreciate you coming in, man. I've known you for a long, long time, and it was crazy. I'll never forget where I was at when I got the call of what happened to you, and it's crazy to think the journey that you've gone on, and you're one of the most inspiring people I know. So thank you so much. All right.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Until next time, guys. Peace.